we do see it as complementary, but at the same time, we do think it is time that the legal industry embrace some technology to make legal documents for businesses more affordable and overall more convenient.
Kia ora team, Richard Liew here, editor at nzentrepreneur.co.nz, and today on the Knowledge Base, I'm joined by Claire Bodle and Natalie Fennell. They are co-founders and on a business called On Your Terms, and they're going to talk to us today about what they're up to and provide heaps of useful insights for you founders out there watching. So Claire and Natalie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Lovely to be here.
Cool. Now, for those who haven't heard about On Your Terms, you're relatively new to market. Can you tell us about what you've been working on, who you work with, and what sort of problems do you help founders solve?
Yeah, so basically we combine technology and legal expertise to provide. We have lots of free information. We have connections with progressive lawyers and, of course, our legal documents. Now, today in New Zealand, legal services have largely been provided on a sort of personal one-to-one basis. And we understand why this is. You know, your lawyer is sort of your trusted advisor and you want to be able to rely on their expertise. But we looked at other industries and saw that technology is sort of really transforming some industries and really changing the game. So we wanted to see if we could do the same thing for law. So basically what we've come up with is we use a combo of chatbot and automation technology to collect information from our customers or users. And then this information is used to produce customized legal documents for them. And so the questions we ask is really just things that are particular to their business. So information about their business, their names, business numbers. There will always be also options to choose from in relation to the documents, but we provide heaps of guidance and hints and tips, and we're always available for questions along the way. So the idea is we've sort of just turned the service around. So if you go and see your lawyer, they'll ask you a series of questions and then they'll go away and draft your documents. But because all of our documents have been drafted already by highly experienced lawyers, we then ask the info for the customers, and that can immediately produce a customized legal document for them.
Right. Now, so to be clear, you were both lawyers, are lawyers.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And so you're essentially disrupting your own industry and looking to make it basically more user-friendly, I guess, using some tech to help founders get their documentation
We
done.
see ourselves as complementary and sometimes an alternate option to legal services. So we work with law firm partners who also provide legal services. So all our documents are drafted by lawyers with at least 15 years experience, peer reviewed, normally twice, have been produced by those lawyers. And then we also offer services from our law firm partners where people want a bit of extra reassurance or have specific questions or need some specific tailoring for them. So we do see it as complementary, but at the same time, we do think it is time that the legal industry embrace some technology to make legal documents for businesses more affordable and overall more convenient. You should be able to, like with so many other services, jump on your laptop, use your phone, and access your legal services, just make it much easier for everyone.
So what are some of those docs that founders are probably likely to encounter when they're starting a business or they're setting up, or even in just the early stages?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start and then I'll let Nat do some more of the detail. So basically, if you're starting a new business, there's some key documents and some key relationships to think about. So obviously you've got your relationships with your customers or your clients. If you've got any staff, you've got those relationships, and also between business partners or co-shareholders if you've set up a company. So on the sort of customer client side, you obviously need your terms and conditions on which you're selling your products or your services. So your products might be selling anything from beauty products to building supplies, Or services, you might be selling your time and your expertise if you're like a designer or a creator or a consultant or something like that. So there's kind of two options for your documents. You sort of either have an agreement directly with your customer, if perhaps what you're doing is a bit more bespoke per customer, or you might have your standard T's and C's that you have perhaps online on your website and your customer signs an order form. So we have all of those options available on our site. And the key things that they cover off really, a big one is obviously scope. So you want to be really clear about what you're delivering. So if you're a service provider, it might be, a certain number of hours you're doing, or it might be a product you're producing, or a deliverable, as they're often known as. And you want it to just be super clear that you're delivering A and B, because we've seen many times the customer thinks they're getting ABC, the supplier, they're not quite on the same page, and then sadly you can end up in a dispute, or often the supplier wants to make their customer happy, so they go the extra mile, but that's obviously not good for business if you're not being able to recover for that. So setting out a clear scope is really important. Obviously your pricing and your payment terms, whether they're paying you a deposit, paying you along the way, paying you right on delivery. It depends what sort of works for your business and what you're delivering. And then also protections if things do go wrong. So if something happens with the product or service you deliver down the track, then it needs to be clear who's responsible for that and the extent to which you're responsible. So you'll often have like a monetary value cap in there so that you know what you could be up for.
I think this is an area which so many founders probably just don't even think about until maybe even after they put the product in market and are now getting customers, and then potentially things starting to get a bit, going a bit wrong, and then they think, oh my goodness, maybe we should have some of these things put in writing somewhere. Whether it be you're an online business and so you need to have, all those T's and C's or terms of use on your website or in your app somewhere, or you're delivering physical goods or services. It's about protecting yourself as the business owner, isn't it?
Well, in any business, it doesn't matter what stage of life it is. Often when you've landed a new client, you don't want to have those conversations about what could go wrong, because you don't want to go there, because you've landed this great new client and things are wonderful. But it's important to have those conversations and make sure that you've both got the same expectations, and that's clear. And the way to get it clear is in writing on paper. So and those client relationships, that's where your revenue comes from. So that's really important to get that right, so that you don't end up, like Liew was talking about, with scope creep and other things, or disputes over payment terms. So that's a really fundamental area. And we've got different packages on our website for different industries. So we've designed it so that it should be easy if you're in this industry to go here. Here's a bundle of documents, or here's one off that you can go to, and this will tell you what you need to start out in that industry.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so we've got the sort of T's and C's, if you like, terms of engagement or terms of sale. What's another key agreement or document that founders are likely to encounter?
So obviously, the other relationship I mentioned is with your staff. So if you do have staff, so the first decision really will be if you want to have an employment agreement with them, or if you want to have an independent contractor arrangement. So, and the key things to think about. So in New Zealand, if you have an employee, you must have a written employment agreement to be legally compliant, and you must comply with all New Zealand employment law. So obviously that means you have to provide holiday pay and sick leave and contribute to KiwiSaver if your employees sign up, and all of these things. And so an employment relationship can still be a casual relationship, or it can be a fixed term relationship, or it can be ongoing. But you need to be compliant with all the requirements. Whereas if you're not quite sure you're ready to commit, if you're a bit worried you might not have enough ongoing work for someone, or perhaps you just want someone to come on and do a specific project, you might be better to consider an independent contractor agreement. With an independent contractor agreement, you can have a fixed notice period. So you can terminate, and it can work better for both sides in some circumstances. And then if you are going to be an employer, we also have lots of employment policies available for purchase so that you can be a responsible employer and make sure you set expectations at the start about what you expect from your staff and what your staff can expect from you.
All right, cool. And again, this is legally required. It's part of your responsibilities as a business owner, as an employer. So it's not really something we can afford to take shortcuts on. Now, okay, cool. What else?
The other area that's super essential, especially for startups, especially agro startups, is shareholder arrangements and documenting your objectives and aligning your objectives, I guess, with your business partners. So the type of things that get covered in a shareholders agreement, things like what are the initial contributions? What happens if we need more funding? What happens if one of the shareholder dies? What happens if they become mentally incapacitated, can't work in the business anymore? What happens if we want to take on a new shareholder? All those things that people don't necessarily want to talk about when they're starting out. But if you don't, it can get quite messy down the track. So what we are aiming to do is find a way that people can have those conversations, get all the issues out in the open in a way that's cost effective, because often it's not. But have those conversations up front when you're starting out so that everyone's on the same page as to what they want to put into the business in terms of money and time and what they want to get out, what the direction is that they want to take it in. So we see shareholders agreements as a really fundamental piece for startups.
So we actually had an example of this recently. We had a customer who came to us and she was after a constitution and a shareholders agreement, and she'd had quotes of 10K and higher from some lawyers, and we discussed with her what we could do. And she ended up purchasing our constitution, which is $249, and our shareholders agreement, which is $599. But then she did have some, bespoke things she wanted to be done. There needed to be a bit of negotiation between her and other shareholders. And all in all, with the documents and the legal advice, it was about $2,000. So she saved basically $8,000.
There's going to be a lot of founders out there, a lot of people working with founders who this is music to the ears, because it is it's an important part of business stewardship. But like you say, especially with startups, often they're funded on the smell of an oily rag, and these sort of things just don't make the priority list on what we spend our money on. So cool. All right, well, that's all we've got time for today, but thank you so much for taking time to talk to us and providing some of those really useful insights. We wish you all the best, and we'll be following your story very closely. Any final words for people that might be watching?
We believe that the products we've produced and the service we provide really provides great reliability and expertise, very similar to what you get from a law firm. We've just changed the process and we've just made it available in a different way. But we know people need to see that and need to try it and need to test it. So that's sort of our next phase, is getting all the information out.